In this video, we're going to look at a new data structure called a data frame. We're also going to look at some tools that will be helpful to you as you complete your first lab assignment. In this example, I'm going to take a little tiny sample of just 3 individuals and gather some information about each one of them, their name, how many siblings they have, how many hours of sleep they got last night, and have them estimate how many calories they consumed yesterday and what their favorite color is. So here's my survey data. I talked to Joe, Maria, and Alicia. Joe had 3 siblings, Maria 2, and Alicia 5. And there's the information about the hours of sleep they had, the number of calories they estimated they consumed, and their favorite color. Now, when we look at these variables, clearly the name variable is a categorical variable, color is a categorical variable, and the other 3 are numerical variables. Now, you already have experience in taking data, a variable, and putting it into an object. So here we're taking the values of the character values of Joe, Maria, and Alicia and storing them in a vector called name. The same with sibling, sheep, cal for calories, and color. Because name and color are categorical variables, then those items are put in quotes. Now here's a new idea. Those variables, those objects, name, sibling, sleep, calorie, and color, can be organized into an object called survey. We're going to call it survey. The function that does that is data.frame, and it just takes those columns and puts them together in an object called a data frame. And we're naming that object survey. So here I showed building this data frame called survey, and now here I'm asking R to show us what that is. Now notice that that looks an awful lot like a spreadsheet. Each row represents an individual, the responses from an individual. Each column represents one of the variables that we were gathering data about. Okay, let me pull this up just a little bit. There's always more than one way to do this. When you look to solve a problem in R, there's always more than one way. When you look at this, it probably reminds you of a spreadsheet, and indeed this data could have been put into a spreadsheet and then we could read that spreadsheet into R. We'll look at that as in another video. Very often the data that we have will actually be in a data frame, and so we need to know how to be able to access the parts of a data frame and get the information out of it. One way to get data out is to use the square bracket notation. Here we've got this data frame survey, and then if we append to that a square bracket 3,5, that's then going to tell us what's in the third column, the third row, 5th column. So that value is other, and you'll notice that it tells us that it's other. When a data frame works with a categorical variable, it turns it into a factor variable, and so it's telling us a bunch of other information here about that factor variable. But there's the output, other. On the other hand, if we do survey square bracket 2, 2, then the second row, second column, has a value of 2, and that's what it's telling us right there. Okay, let me pull this up a little bit. Now here we're going to look at an entire row or an entire column. See, when we do survey 2 with no restriction on the columns, that will mean it's going to tell us the entire second row. So notice that's Maria 2, 7, 195, 1950, in green. On the other hand, if we ask for survey square bracket with no restriction on the row, but we want to look at saying just the third column, then it's going to give us the information from that third column, which is 976.2, 6.26. So the idea in this square bracket notation is that you're telling it what to restrict rows or columns to. Another useful way to address the columns, now remember each column is actually a variable. So the way that you can address those columns, those variables, is to say, for example, survey $name, and that will tell us that it's Joe, Maria, Alicia. It's a categorical variable, so it tells us something about levels. We'll learn about that in another day. If you did survey $siblings, then it would tell us the 325, which, if you remember, was the 325 in the siblings column. That's it's just telling us what that column is. Don't let that stuff with the factor variables in a categorical variable give you any trouble. We'll catch up on that later on. Okay, so that's the idea. Powerful new structure called a data frame. Good luck with your lab assignment.